Which African country has produced the greatest female football legends of all time? From record-breaking champions and Ballon d'Or nominees to Africa's biggest trophy winners, today we're counting down the top 10 African countries that have produced the best female football players from the last decade until now. You'll discover legendary icons, today's superstars, their trophies, awards, clubs, and the incredible stories behind their success. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments which country you think deserves the #1 spot. Now, let's begin the countdown. Number 10, Senegal, the rising lionesses of West Africa. For many years, Senegal lived in the shadow of Africa's biggest women's football nations. But over the last decade, the Teranga Lionesses have become one of the continent's fastest rising teams. After decades away from the spotlight, Senegal returned to the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in 2022 and has reached the quarterfinals in consecutive editions, proving they are no longer underdogs. The women who laid the foundation include pioneers such as Kine Sine and Awa Diakate, an earlier generation whose efforts helped grow women's football despite limited support. Most of these early stars retired during the 2010s after representing local clubs and inspiring young girls across Senegal. Today, a new generation has taken over. Captain Ndiaye Awa Diakate has played for Amazon's Grand Yoff, Dakar Sacré-Cœur, Le Puy, and Olympique de Marseille, becoming one of Senegal's most creative midfielders. Alongside her are prolific forwards Mama Diop, who has played for clubs including Marseille, and Nawainar Ndiaye, who has starred for Bourges 18 in France. Rising talents such as Ndiaye Awa Kasset are also emerging as future stars. While salaries for Senegalese women's players are rarely made public, French second division professionals such as Diakate and Mama Diop are generally estimated to earn between €1,500 and €4,000 per month, though exact figures have not been officially disclosed. Although Senegal has not yet won the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, their fearless performances and disciplined style have earned respect across Africa. Their rapid rise has encouraged greater investment in women's football, with more players moving to professional clubs in France and beyond. Beyond football, Senegal has one of West Africa's most stable economies, driven by agriculture, fishing, tourism, and expanding energy projects. As the country's economy grows, so does support for women's sport, giving the next generation of lionesses a stronger platform than ever before. Today, Senegal is no longer just participating, they are building a future where they can challenge Africa's biggest football powers. Number 9, Mali, the silent giants of African women's football. Mali may not receive as much attention as Nigeria or South Africa, but for more than a decade, the Eagle Ladies have quietly produced some of Africa's most gifted female footballers. Their biggest achievement came at the 2018 Women's Africa Cup of Nations, where they reached the semifinals and finished fourth, the best result in the country's history. Mali has also been a dominant force in youth football, regularly producing stars through FIFA U17 and U20 Women's World Cups. One of Mali's most respected veterans is Fatoumata Diarra, who inspired the national team and local club as Mandé before retiring from international football after helping develop the next generation. Another experienced figure is goalkeeper Fatoumata Karentau, who has represented as Mandé and become one of the country's most decorated women's goalkeepers, earning domestic recognition for her performances. Today, the face of Malian women's football is Asisat Oshoala. She began her career with Super Lions de Hamdallah, moved to Besiktas in Turkey, then starred for Gangam, FC Fleury 91, and later Boston Legacy FC. Alongside her is exciting young forward Agesa Diarra, who developed at Super Lions before earning a move to Paris Saint-Germain, becoming one of Africa's brightest young talents. Mali has not yet won the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, but its players have collected domestic league titles and individual honors. Asisat Oshoala was named Mali Women's Player of the Year, while Fatoumata Karentau has also received national recognition as one of the country's best goalkeepers. None of Mali's players has yet received a FIFA Best Player or Ballon d'Or nomination, but several have featured among CAF's top performers. Unlike some of Africa's biggest stars, the salaries of Malian players are rarely disclosed publicly. While exact figures have not been officially published, players competing in France's top divisions generally earn professional wages, whereas most domestic league players receive much lower incomes. Football is deeply woven into Mali's culture, producing world-class talent despite limited resources. The country's economy relies on gold mining, agriculture, and cotton exports, but investment in women's football continues to grow. Mali's success in developing technically gifted young players has inspired many West African nations to strengthen their own women's football academies, proving that talent and determination can overcome financial limitations. Number 8. Ivory Coast, the elephants that refused to give up. Ivory Coast has long been known for producing legendary male footballers like Didier Drogba and Yaya Touré, but the country's women's team, the Lady Elephants, has also built a proud legacy. Over the past decade, Ivory Coast has become one of West Africa's strongest women's football nations, qualifying for the 2015 FIFA Women's World Cup for the first time in history and making several appearances at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations (WAFCON). That historic World Cup qualification inspired thousands of young girls across the country to dream of playing football on the biggest stage. One of Ivory Coast's greatest pioneers is Rita Akoanahi, who captained the national team for many years. She enjoyed a long career with clubs including Elephants FC in Ivory Coast before retiring from international football in the late 2010s after helping establish the Lady Elephants as a respected African side. Another veteran leader was José Nahi, a talented forward who represented clubs such as Omnis de Debout and later played professionally in Europe before retiring from international football after the 2015 World Cup era. The new generation is led by world-class striker Ken Zadali, who has represented Ivory Coast internationally and played for top clubs including Paris Saint-Germain, West Ham United, Everton, Aston Villa, and San Diego Wave FC. Alongside her are experienced defender Dominique Thiamale, goalkeeper Cynthia Johore, and attacking midfielder Ines Konan, who continue to raise the team's standard both at home and abroad. Ivory Coast's greatest team achievement remains qualifying for the 2015 FIFA Women's World Cup and competing regularly at WAFCON. Although the Lady Elephants have not yet won the African title, their fearless style has earned respect across the continent. While no Ivorian player has won the CAF Women's Player of the Year award or received a Ballon d'Or Féminine nomination, several players have featured among Africa's top performers during WAFCON tournaments. Professional salaries for Ivorian players are rarely made public. However, players competing in Europe's top leagues generally earn professional contracts. Exact salary figures for most current Ivory Coast internationals have not been officially disclosed, so reliable estimates are unavailable. Football is one of the biggest passions in Ivory Coast. The country's economy is among the strongest in West Africa, powered by cocoa production, coffee, oil, mining, and international trade. As investment in women's football continues to grow, more Ivorian players are moving to European clubs, helping to inspire the next generation. The Lady Elephants have shown that with determination, talent, and opportunity, Ivory Coast can continue producing stars capable of competing with Africa's very best. Number 7. Equatorial Guinea, Africa's unexpected queens. If there is one country that shocked African women's football, it is Equatorial Guinea. Despite being one of Africa's smallest nations, Enzalong Nacional Femenino rose from obscurity to become continental champions. They won the Women's Africa Cup of Nations (WAFCON) twice, 2008 and 2012, defeating traditional powerhouses like Nigeria and forever changing the balance of women's football in Africa. They also became the first Central African nation to qualify for the FIFA Women's World Cup, reaching the tournament in 2011. Those achievements proved that even a small nation could compete with Africa's giants. The Golden Generation was led by legendary captain Genoveva Onyonma, one of Africa's greatest forwards. She played for clubs including Torrejon CF, Rayo Vallecano, and Transportes Alcaine in Spain. Onyonma won the 2012 CAF Women's Footballer of the Year, becoming one of the few Central African players ever to receive the award. She retired from international football in the late 2010s after helping transform Equatorial Guinea into continental champions. Another icon was Salamata Simpore, who strengthened the team's defense during their historic WAFCON triumphs. The current generation is led by experienced goalkeeper Mirabel Obono, defender Diosdado Asima, and striker Dorini Nina, while several young talents continue to play in Spain and domestic clubs. Although the national team has not reached the same heights as the 2008-2012 era, these players continue to fight to restore the country's place among Africa's elite. Equatorial Guinea's trophy cabinet remains one of the most impressive in African women's football. 2 WAFCON titles, 2008 and 2012, multiple appearances at the Continental Championship, and qualification for the 2011 FIFA Women's World Cup. Individually, Genoveva Onyonma stands out as the country's greatest player, winning the CAF Women's Footballer of the Year in 2012 and earning recognition as one of Africa's finest attackers. However, no Equatorial Guinean player has received a FIFA Best Player or Ballon d'Or Féminine nomination. Because most Equatorial Guinean internationals play in smaller European leagues or domestic competitions, official salary figures are generally not publicly available. Reliable public data on player earnings remains very limited. Football is a national passion despite the country's small population. Equatorial Guinea has one of Africa's highest GDP per capita, thanks largely to its oil and natural gas industry, although wealth distribution remains uneven. The nation's remarkable success inspired many smaller African countries to invest in women's football, proving that determination, smart planning, and talent can overcome differences in population size. Even today, the story of Equatorial Guinea remains one of the greatest underdog success stories in African football history. Number 6, Zambia, the Copper Queens who took Africa by storm. Just a decade ago, Zambia was considered an outsider in African women's football. Today, the Copper Queens are one of the continent's most exciting teams. Their fearless attacking football and world-class stars have taken them to new heights, including qualification for the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, where they recorded their first-ever World Cup victory, and consecutive appearances at the Olympic Games in Tokyo 2020 and Paris 2024. Their remarkable rise has made Zambia one of Africa's fastest-growing football nations. The early generation of Copper Queens featured experienced players such as Richest Oshoala, one of Zambia's pioneering defenders who represented clubs including Green Buffaloes Women FC before retiring from international football in the late 2010s after helping lay the foundation for future success. Another respected veteran is Misozi Zulu, whose leadership inspired a new generation of Zambian footballers. Today, Zambia is powered by 2 global superstars. Barbra Banda, the team captain, has played for Green Buffaloes, Logroño, Spain, Shanghai Shengli, China, and Orlando Pride in the United States. She became the first player in Olympic history, male or female, to score back-to-back hat tricks, achieving the feat at the Tokyo Olympics. In 2024, she was named the CAF Women's Player of the Year, becoming one of Africa's biggest football icons. Reports indicate that her contract with Orlando Pride is worth around $740,000 per year, making her one of the highest-paid African female footballers. Alongside her is Rachel Kundananji, who played for Indoni Roses, Kazakhstan's BK Kazigurt, Eber, Madrid CFF, and later Bay FC in the United States. In 2024, Bay FC signed her for a world record transfer fee in women's football at the time. Public reports estimate she earns around $400,000 to $500,000 per year, although exact figures have not been officially confirmed. Zambia has not yet won the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, but they finished third at WAFCON 2022, securing their first ever FIFA Women's World Cup qualification. Individually, Barbra Banda has won the CAF Women's Player of the Year, while Rachel Kundananji has earned nominations for major CAF awards and global recognition as one of the world's most dangerous strikers. Although neither has won the Ballon d'Or Féminine, both have appeared on international award shortlists. Football has become a source of national pride in Zambia. The country's economy is heavily driven by copper mining, agriculture, and tourism. The success of the Copper Queens has transformed the perception of women's football across southern Africa, inspiring thousands of young girls to chase professional careers. Today, Zambia is no longer an emerging nation, they are a genuine powerhouse capable of challenging Africa's very best on the world stage. Number 5. Morocco, the Atlas Lionesses who changed African football. Over the last decade, Morocco has become one of the biggest success stories in women's football. Thanks to massive investment by the Royal Moroccan Football Federation, the Atlas Lionesses have transformed from an emerging team into one of Africa's elite. Their greatest achievement came at the 2022 Women's Africa Cup of Nations (WAFCON), where they reached the final for the first time after defeating Nigeria on penalties. That historic run also secured Morocco's first-ever qualification for the FIFA Women's World Cup. At the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, they made history again by reaching the round of 16, becoming the first Arab nation to achieve that milestone. The early generation of Moroccan women's football featured pioneers such as Nesrine El Chad, Sanaa Messaoudi, and several domestic league veterans who helped grow the game before the recent boom. While many players from the older generation have retired from international football over the past decade, their dedication helped build the foundation for today's success. The modern era belongs to Captain Ghizlan Chebik, widely regarded as Morocco's greatest female footballer. She has spent most of her career with FAR Rabat, one of Africa's strongest women's clubs. Chebik won the Golden Boot at WAFCON 2022 and was crowned CAF Women's Player of the Year in 2023, becoming the first Moroccan woman to receive the award. She has also been shortlisted for several global honors, although she has not yet received a Ballon d'Or Féminine nomination. Morocco's rising stars include striker Ibtissam Jayradi, who has played for FAR and Saudi Arabian club Al Ahly Women, defender Nouhaila Benzina, the first player to wear a hijab in a FIFA Women's World Cup match, and midfielder Fatima Tagnout, another standout performer for FAR. Public salary figures are limited, but reports suggest top Moroccan internationals playing in Saudi Arabia or leading domestic clubs earn between $50,000 and $150,000 per year, while exact contract values remain undisclosed. Although Morocco has not yet won the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, finishing runners-up in 2022 and reaching the 2023 Women's World Cup round of 16 marked a turning point for African and Arab women's football. Their achievements have inspired greater investment across North Africa and the Middle East, proving that consistent planning and development can produce world-class results. Beyond football, Morocco has one of Africa's most diversified economies, with strengths in tourism, automotive manufacturing, agriculture, renewable energy, and international trade. Combined with strong football infrastructure and government support, the Atlas Lionesses have become role models for a new generation. Today, Morocco is not just competing with Africa's best, they are helping redefine the future of women's football across the continent. Number 4. Ghana, the Black Queens who inspired a continent. Long before many African nations invested seriously in women's football, Ghana's Black Queens were already setting the standard. Since the late 1990s, Ghana has been one of Africa's most respected women's football nations, qualifying for 3 FIFA Women's World Cups 1999, 2003, and 2007, and reaching the final of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON on multiple occasions. Although they have never lifted the continental title, the Black Queens have consistently produced world-class players who have inspired generations across Africa. The greatest legend in Ghanaian women's football is Adjoa Bayer. During her outstanding career, she played for clubs including Gatel Ladies Ghana, FC Indiana, USA, and FFUSV Jena, Germany. She was named the CAF Women's Footballer of the Year in 2003, becoming one of the first African women to gain global recognition. Bayer retired from international football in the early 2010s after more than a decade of outstanding service. Another Ghanaian icon is Memunatu Sulmana, a talented midfielder who represented Ghana in multiple FIFA Women's World Cups before retiring in the late 2000s. Veteran defender Gladys Amphobe also played a key role in the growth of the Black Queens before ending her international career. Today, Ghana's new generation is led by Evelyn Badu, one of Africa's brightest young midfielders. She began her career with Hazaka's Ladies, where she helped the club win the 2021 CAF Women's Champions League, before moving to Avaldsnes in Norway. She was crowned CAF Women's Young Player of the Year in 2022, confirming her status as one of Africa's future stars. Alongside her are experienced striker Princella Adubi, who has played for Ampam Darkoa ladies and clubs in Spain and Israel, defender Portia Boki, who has represented Sporting Huelva in Spain, and midfielder Alice Kusi, who has played professionally in Serbia and Saudi Arabia. Professional salaries for Ghanaian internationals are not officially published. However, players in European leagues and the Saudi Women's Premier League are believed to earn between $40,000 and $120,000 per year, depending on the club and contract. Exact figures for most Ghanaian players remain undisclosed. Although Ghana has yet to win the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, the Black Queens have finished as runners-up 3 times and remain one of the continent's most respected teams. Adjoa Bayer's CAF Player of the Year award and Evelyn Badou's Young Player of the Year title highlight Ghana's tradition of producing elite talent. No Ghanaian woman has yet been nominated for the Ballon d'Or Féminine, but several players have earned recognition at CAF level. Football is deeply rooted in Ghanaian culture, and the country's economy is driven by gold mining, cocoa production, oil, agriculture, and services. Ghana's success has inspired many West African nations to invest in women's football academies and youth development. Even without a continental title, the Black Queens have left a lasting legacy, proving that talent, resilience, and passion can make a nation one of Africa's greatest football powerhouses. Number 3 Cameroon, the indomitable lionesses that roared across the world. When people talk about African women's football, Cameroon is impossible to ignore. The indomitable lionesses have been one of Africa's most feared teams for over 2 decades, combining strength, speed, and determination. Their greatest moment came at the 2015 FIFA Women's World Cup, where they became the first African team to win a knockout match at a Women's World Cup, defeating Switzerland 2-1. To reach the quarterfinals. Cameroon has also finished runners-up at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON twice, in 2014 and 2016, proving they belong among Africa's elite. The greatest legend in Cameroonian women's football is Gaëlle Anganamut. The powerful striker played for Lorma Yaoundé, Spartak Subotica, Serbia, Eskilstuna United, Sweden, and Malaga CF, Spain. In 2015, she made history by becoming the first Cameroonian woman to win the CAF Women's Player of the Year award after an incredible season in which she scored goals for both club and country. Persistent injuries forced her to retire from professional football in 2020, but her legacy continues to inspire young players across Africa. Another legendary figure is Annette Go Endom, one of Africa's greatest goalkeepers. She represented clubs including Canon Yaoundé, Puebla FC, and Amazon FC, helping Cameroon qualify for major international tournaments before retiring from international football in the late 2010s. Veteran defender Christine Mani also became a national icon after representing Cameroon at multiple FIFA Women's World Cups and Olympic Games before retiring from international football in 2019. The current generation is led by world-class striker Ajara Nkout Njoya, famous for scoring the winning goal against New Zealand at the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup. She has played for Rossiyonka, Russia, Vålerenga, Norway, Atletico Madrid, Spain, Inter Milan, Italy, and Al Qadsiya, Saudi Arabia. Alongside her are captain Gabrielle Aboudi Ongwene, who has starred for CSKA Moscow, and goalkeeper Estelle Johnson, who has added international experience to the squad. Professional salaries for Cameroonian players are rarely made public. However, players competing in top European leagues and Saudi Arabia are reported to earn between $100,000 and $300,000 per year, depending on their club and contract. Exact salary figures for Ajara Nkout and most teammates have not been officially disclosed. Although Cameroon has never won the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, their 2 runner-up finishes, World Cup quarterfinal appearance, and Olympic qualifications have cemented their place among Africa's football giants. Individually, Gaëlle Anganamut's 2015 CAF Women's Player of the Year remains one of the country's greatest sporting achievements. While no Cameroonian player has yet won the Ballon d'Or Féminine or the Best FIFA Women's Player award, several have earned international recognition through outstanding World Cup performances. Football is a way of life in Cameroon. The country's economy is supported by oil, natural gas, agriculture, timber, and mining, while football remains the nation's most beloved sport. The indomitable lionesses have inspired countless young girls across Central Africa, proving that African women can compete with the very best in the world. Their courage, resilience, and unforgettable performances have helped elevate African women's football onto the global stage. Number 2, South Africa, Banyana, Africa's modern champions. If there is one team that has completely transformed women's football in Africa over the last decade, it is South Africa's Banyana. Known for their skill, tactical discipline, and fearless style of play, South Africa has become a global force. Their greatest achievement came in 2022, when they defeated Morocco 2-1, to win their first ever Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON title. Just 1 year later, they made history again by reaching the round of 16 at the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, becoming only the second African nation ever to reach that stage. Their success has inspired millions of girls across Africa to believe they can compete with the world's best. The country's greatest pioneer is Portia Modise, one of the most prolific goal scorers in African football history. During her remarkable career, she played for clubs including Soweto Ladies, Ma Indies Ladies, and Richest Ladies. She became the first African woman to score 100 international goals and was named CAF Women's Player of the Year in 2006. Modise retired from international football in 2015, leaving behind an extraordinary legacy. Another legendary figure is Janine van Wyk, Africa's most capped footballer, who played for JVWFC, Houston Dash, Fortuna Hajoring, and Glasgow City. The inspirational defender retired from international football in 2024 after more than 185 appearances. Veteran midfielder Noko Madlu, the CAF Women's Player of the Year in 2008, also became one of the country's greatest football icons. The current generation is led by superstar striker Thembi Kgatlana, who has played for Houston Dash, Beijing BG Phoenix, Eber, Atletico Madrid, Racing Louisville FC, and Tigres UANL. She won the CAF Women's Player of the Year in 2018 after helping South Africa dominate African football. Midfielder Linda Motlolo, who has represented Djurgårdens IF, Glasgow City, and Racing Louisville FC, remains one of Africa's most creative playmakers. Goalkeeper Kaylin Swart and defender Bambinani Mbane continue to play vital roles in the national team's success. While exact salaries are not officially published, reliable reports estimate that Thembi Kgatlana earns between $250,000 and $400,000 per year, depending on bonuses and endorsements. Other South African internationals playing in Europe and North America are generally believed to earn between $80,000 and $250,000 annually, though individual contract details remain private. South Africa's trophy cabinet includes the historic 2022 WAFCON title, multiple WAFCON runner-up finishes, and qualification for 4 FIFA Women's World Cups 2019, 2023, and earlier qualifications. Individually, the nation has produced 3 CAF Women's Player of the Year winners, Portia Modise 2006, Noko Madlu 2008, and Thembi Kgatlana 2018. Several South African stars have also appeared on FIFA award shortlists, although none has yet won the Ballon d'Or Féminine. Beyond football, South Africa has one of Africa's largest and most diversified economies, driven by mining, manufacturing, finance, agriculture, tourism, and technology. The country's professional women's league and investment in youth development have become a model for many African nations. Today, Banyana are more than champions, they are pioneers who have changed how the world views African women's football, proving that talent, determination, and proper investment can create champions capable of competing with the very best on the global stage. Number 1, Nigeria, the Super Falcons, the undisputed queens of African football. No country has dominated African women's football like Nigeria. For more than 3 decades, the Super Falcons have set the standard, winning 11 Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON titles, the most by any nation on the continent. Nigeria was also the first African country to qualify for the FIFA Women's World Cup in 1991 and is the only African nation to have qualified for every Women's World Cup since the tournament began. Their incredible consistency has made them the greatest women's football nation in Africa and one of the most respected teams in the world. The golden generation began with legends like Mercy Akidudo, one of Africa's first global female football stars. She played for Rivers Angels, Millwall Lionesses England and San Diego Spirit USA. Akid was named the first CAF Women's Footballer of the Year in 2001 and retired from international football in 2008, leaving behind a legacy that inspired millions of African girls. Another icon is Perpetua Nkwacha, who played for Rivers Angels, Sunana SK, Sweden, and Clemson Tigers earlier in her career. She won a record 4 CAF Women's Player of the Year awards 2004, 2005, 2010, and 2011 and retired from international football in 2015 after helping Nigeria win multiple WAFCON titles. Legendary goalkeeper Anchiin, defender Onam Ebi, who retired internationally in 2024 after appearing in 6 FIFA Women's World Cups, and striker Cynthia Ewik, a 2-time CAF Women's Player of the Year 2006 and 2007, also helped build Nigeria's dynasty. Today, the face of Nigerian women's football is Asisat Oshoala, one of the greatest players Africa has ever produced. She has played for Robo FC, Rivers Angels, Liverpool, Arsenal, Dalian Quanjian China, FC Barcelona, and Bay FC in the United States. Oshoala has won a record 6 CAF Women's Player of the Year awards, 5 Spanish League titles, and the UEFA Women's Champions League with Barcelona. She has also been nominated several times for the Ballon d'Or Féminine and the Best FIFA Women's Player awards. Public reports estimate her annual salary at around $500,000 United States dollars to $700,000, excluding sponsorships and endorsements. Nigeria's current stars also include Rashidat Ajibade, who has played for FC Robo, Avaldsnes Ile, and Atletico Madrid, where she has become one of Europe's top wingers. Forward Uchenna Kanu, who has represented Linköpings FC, Tigres UANL, and Racing Louisville FC, is another key player. Midfielder Christy Uchibe continues to shine with SL Benfica, while goalkeeper Chiamaka Nadozie, formerly of Rivers Angels and Paris FC, has earned international praise, including recognition as one of the world's top goalkeepers after winning France's Top Division Goalkeeper of the Season award. Nigeria's achievements are unmatched in Africa. 11 WAFCON titles, appearances at every FIFA Women's World Cup, and a memorable run to the 1999 World Cup quarter-finals, where the Super Falcons became the first African team to reach that stage. The team also reached the round of 16 at the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, pushing eventual finalists England to a penalty shootout. Individually, Nigeria has produced 8 CAF Women's Player of the Year awards across multiple players, more than any other African nation, and has had several players shortlisted for FIFA and Ballon d'Or honors. Football is the heartbeat of Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, driven by oil and gas, agriculture, banking, telecommunications, entertainment, and technology, provides a vast talent pool and passionate fan base. The success of the Super Falcons has inspired generations of girls not only in Nigeria but across Africa, opening doors for African women in Europe's biggest leagues and changing the global perception of women's football on the continent. From Mercy Akid to Perpetua Nkwacha, from Cynthia Ewik to Asisat Oshoala, and from Onam Ebi to Chiamaka Nadozie, Nigeria has produced more legendary female footballers than any other African country. That is why the Super Falcons proudly stand at number 1, the undisputed queens of African women's football.